Moving on then to the Vezina, which I don't feel like will have as much of a conversation to it. I do want to shout out my current runner-up in Philip Grubauer, but the number one choice, is still Andre Vasilevskiy for the Vezina Trophy. Again, we have pumped his tires enough over this season. We'll continue to do so because he has been absolutely fantastic. Deej, I can't help but think you're going to agree.
Yeah, so the thing that makes me say this is Andre Vasilevskiy is when Tampa Bay plays a game and Curtis McElhinney is in net, Tampa does not look like Tampa. They look terrible. They know they're going to have to put up at least 4 or 5 goals to win a game when McElhinney's in net. And then when Vasi's in net, this team's completely different. This team looks like an unbeatable powerhouse machine. Almost robotic in the way that they're able to close out games and prevent anyone from scoring. I mean, he's probably the best goaltender I have seen in the NHL since Brodeur at this point, after seeing his body of work. I know that's a big statement, but he's looked unbeatable for 2 seasons in a row now.
I mean, big statement, but I mean, God, so what are we saying then? I forget. When did, I mean, it's like, if we're talking Brodeur, obviously, is the guy to hand that off, then, I mean, the big conversation becomes, the likes of Henrik Lundqvist in that time, which, I mean, obviously, too, I don't want to, you don't want to take shots at Henrik Lundqvist, but obviously Vasilevskiy has something that Lundqvist never won, unfortunately. But I mean, yeah, I guess in that time, right? In terms of the consistency. So let's just say this then. Lundqvist, so for you to say that you think so just to reiterate, you think he's the best goalie in the NHL since Brodeur retired, essentially.
Yeah.
So Marty won his last Vezina in 2008. From there, you had Tim Thomas win a Vezina in 08-09 and 2010-2011, and obviously lead the Bruins to the Cup. I think Tim Thomas deserves a shout, but if we're talking if we're talking since Brodeur did it, like, Thomas had 2 to 3 amazing seasons and directly led the Bruins to a Cup. I think he's in the conversation. Ryan Miller won a Vezina in 2010. I think if the conversations between Tim Thomas and Ryan Miller's, had a better 2010s in terms of consistency, but obviously didn't win another Vezina, didn't have the playoff success, not necessarily his fault in some circumstances. I think you'd put Thomas over Miller. Then you get into Henrik Lundqvist, who I still can't believe this, Deej. He only won 1 Vezina trophy, and that was in 2011, 2012. And then again, where do you rate Tim Thomas and Henrik Lundqvist in terms of since Brodeur's last Vezina? Again, Tim Thomas, 2 to 3 great years, gets a Cup. Henrik Lundqvist, phenomenal for the majority of the decade. I won't vote on that. I'll just say it's close, depending on what you value. Bobrovsky won the Vezina in 2012-2013 and in 2016-2017. So 2 Vezinas for Bob since Brodeur was at his peak. Doesn't have the playoff success, though. So you see the names that start to get into the conversation. And, of course, I haven't mentioned Carey Price. Again, though, only 1 Vezina in 2014-2015. As someone who, again, people think I hate Carey Price, I think it's fucking absurd. Carey Price only has 1 Vezina trophy. Absurd. But he does. And then again...
Yeah, there was a number of years there where he was insane.
He doesn't have that playoff success to back it up, but we know for the majority of that time he was really good. Tuukka Rask, 2013-14 Vezina winner. Consistent goalie. As much as I hate to say it, been the 2 Cup finals, 2015-2019, doesn't have the Cup, so I don't think you could put Tuukka Rask at the top of that list for best goalie since Brodeur. Braden Holtby, 2015-16 Vezina winner, has a Stanley Cup, but the consistency in the past couple of years, that gets into the argument of where exactly do you put him. And then Pekka Rinne won it in 17-18, doesn't have the Cup, pretty consistent. And then Hellebuck last year doesn't have the Cup, pretty consistent. Of course, Vasi won it in 18-19, has the cup sense, and is the favorite to win it this year. So out of those goaltenders, I don't think it's not a hot take to say that you think Andrei Vasilevskiy is the best goaltender since Brodeur was at his peak in the NHL. There are obviously legitimate shouts, and biases will help dictate who I think the majority of the people would say their favorite is. Again, there is a legitimate argument to say Tim Thomas, legitimate argument to say Lundqvist, Bobrovsky, Price, Rask, Rinne. I don't think it's a hot take to say Vasilevskiy, and I think if he secures that second Vezina this year, he gets the nod. You know, you look at two goalies since Brodeur retired. It's Thomas and Bobrovsky. Bobrovsky doesn't have the cup. Thomas doesn't have the duration. If you get Vasilevskiy now, with as young as he is, 2 Vezinas, maybe 2 cups by the end of the season. He already has 1 at least. And we know he still has a ways to go in his career. Yeah, I think Vasi hands down has that crown.
Yeah, and I know you bring up the Lundqvist comparison just because I know there's going to be a lot of hardcore Lundqvist fans. I feel like the Lundqvist to Vasilevskiy comparison is very similar to the Dan Marino Patrick Mahomes comparison. Like, I don't necessarily have an answer for that one, but I think it's a very similar conversation you end up having.
Right, where someone like Mahomes, so young in his career, has this success already. Like I said, it depends on how you balance it. What do you value more in terms of what defines a great goaltender? Consistent success, trophies, championships, like what, or a combination of all three. What do you define as the most important in your opinion? So I'm actually looking forward to hearing from people, whether it be on the YouTube comments or on Twitter. Out of those goalies that we mentioned, I mean, unless there's someone that people would argue without a Vezina Trophy is in the conversation, but I'm really intrigued to see actually what people would think of this particular debate as far as, obviously, Martin Brodeur, 4 Vezina Trophies, the Stanley Cups. Yeah, like he was the guy at that stage. Who has been that goalie at this stage that you would say, I mean, obviously, too, I think that baton could kind of change. Like, if you want to say, like, Tim Thomas was the guy for 3 seasons, and then he turned it over, sure, but then who did he turn it over to? Lundqvist, Bobrovsky, Price, Rask? Like, it's a hell of a debate to be had, for sure.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay. So we got some material there. So, from here...
I mean, I do want to point out really quickly, though, because I was intrigued. Sorry, not to cut you off, but I was intrigued because whenever Carey Price is brought up, people always mention even strength save percentage, right? So I had to look it up for Henrik Lundqvist. There was a run for Hank from 2010-11 up until the end of the 2016 season, where in, God, what was it? 5 out of those 6 years, he had an even strength save percentage of at least a .930. It's very tough to say that you wouldn't put Henrik Lundqvist up there off of consistency. That's a hell of a debate, for sure. It really is. Anyway, feel free. Back on track.